And hello everyone, my name is Lucy and welcome to Books and Brushes. So today we are talking non-fiction. I know, calm down. So it is non-fiction November. I would not have known that. One of my great friends on BookTube, Rachel from Rachel's Reading Corner, she basically does all the readathons, and I don't know how she does them all or knows about them all, but she does. I guess being a librarian, she's just on this. And she's talked about it being a non-fiction November. She did this really cool video on how to find non-fiction that you enjoy, and it's really cool. I will link it down below because it was such a good video. Thanks Rachel for the inspiration, and so with that I'm going to talk about the non-fiction I own. More specifically, this video is going to be me going through my autobiography collection, because pretty much that's non-fiction wise exclusively what I have. Believe it or not, I owe all of this to non-fiction. I know. If you've read my reading story, that's like quite an old video now, but regardless, I talk about how I got into reading, how I became the bookworm I am today, and that was because of an autobiography. Yep. So my parents bought me this, I think it was my mum, I really can't remember now. She bought me an autobiography of someone I really loved, and I read this book and I loved it so much. I read it back to back. I had so much fun reading this book that I wanted more. Like, I went on such a high. It'd been more fun than I'd had in ages. That sounds really sad, but that's the truth. And I loved it. And on the spur of that autobiography, I then decided to, just go out on a limb and buy this book series that a friend said was kind of good. And I bought Hunger Games. And here we are. An autobiography is what started me being a reader. And I haven't really thought about that. Like, I pretty much read mostly fiction. I think most big bookworms on BookTube do. And yet, non-fiction is really underrated. So I'm quite interested in promoting non-fiction November, because it is something that I think is really fun to read. It's seen as this academic, boring thing, and it doesn't have to be. That's why I really wanted to talk about my autobiographies today, because I've never spoken about them. Like, I've read them all before I started BookTube, and I haven't really reviewed or discussed any of them. So today I'm just going to go through my collection and tell you about the books and what I think of them, and it's going to be a fun time, so let's get started. Starting, of course, with the book, the autobiography my mum bought for me that did this. And that book was The Life of Lee by Lee Evans. Now, in school, I was obsessed with Lee Evans. Fun fact about me, I absolutely love stand-up comedy. I've mentioned it in a few videos before, but stand-up is something I love. I watch all the stand-up shows, I watch all the panel shows as well. I have loads of favourite comedians. In fact, most of these books I own, and many more comedians I've seen live. I absolutely love comedy. It's so observational comedy, especially. It takes life and it makes it funny, and I absolutely love it to the death. It is something I enjoy that I don't really talk about much, and pretty much all of these autobiographies are from comedians. And when I was in school, me and my best friend were obsessed with Lee Evans. We would quote Lee Evans pretty much all day long. Just randomly at any point during the day, one of us would say a line and we'd spurt into the entire set. And everyone around us would be like, oh God, not Lee Evans again. This love for Lee Evans kind of never died. But my mum obviously knew I loved him and decided to buy me his autobiography. This biography, like I said, I've read it a long time ago now. In fact, I'd love to reread this and see if my memory holds up to what I think this book is like. So take all of these opinions with a grain of salt of time, that I haven't read this in a long time. This is just what I remember. So Lee is the monkey boy himself, class clown type, very silly, funny facial expressions, silly movements, taking the piss. However, this book is not that. It is not a comedy book. It is a autobiography, a life story, and there's actually some really sad, poignant, heartbreaking moments in this book, which I really didn't expect going in, because it's Lee Evans. He's hilarious, but his life is pretty melancholy and somber in so many areas, and I liked it. It was totally different from his stand-up, although I love his stand-up. It was so interesting to see another side of him, to see him as like a human being, you know, him and some of the tragedies he's faced, him just trying to get through life, you know, the hard road it takes to become a comedian and become as successful as he is, him and his wife and the struggles there, and it's just such a good book. I remember reading it and it was like a fictional story. Like, there's an overarching plot, there was high moments, there was a low moment, and it was such a good story, and I felt so much closer to one of my favourite comedians by reading this, and I really want to reread it because I honestly can't remember most of the things that happened. I remember a couple of the moments that really stick out, but other than that, I don't remember, so I really want to reread this book. I just remember it being absolutely fantastic, and I really recommend that if you love Lee Evans, because most people love Lee Evans, to read this book. In fact, I recommend if you love any celebrity in particular, a comedian, or I don't know, a TV host, or maybe a sports person you love, or someone from a TV show, an actor maybe, like anyone that you love, get their autobiography because you might be surprised, and it's really fun and interesting to learn about these people and their lives behind, you know, their celebrity face. Now this next book is quite different in the way that I read this really recently, and I mean reread it. So this book again I got ages and ages ago, so another family member bought it for me, don't remember who, my dad I think was this one, I can't remember. I reread this recently on audiobook, so I was working and I found this audiobook and just decided to listen to it, and oh my god, I had so much fun. It was so cool to hear the actual person's voice reading their own words. And that book is Michael McIntyre, Life and Laughing. I did warn you, these are comedians, shouldn't be surprised. Again, love Michael McIntyre, also seen him live, seen Lee Evans live. I'm not name dropping, it's just true. I listened to this really recently on audiobook. I had just as much fun as I've had reading it before. I have no idea how many times I've read this book. I think it's about 3. I've read it a couple of times in the past and I've just re-listened to it. It was really fun to take in the story in a new way. Like, I do recommend reading these books, but also listening to the audiobooks as well. You know, it's them reading their words, and it was so fun to hear Michael McIntyre read his book. This is a completely different book to the Lee Evans one. Whereas Lee Evans is very funny and silly, and his book is, you know, a very opposite take to that, Michael McIntyre's book is so Michael McIntyre. He is a silly, jolly, funny man on stage, and his book is a silly, jolly story man in life. It is very him, and it's, so again, a really interesting story. Michael McIntyre has managed to write this wonderful story of his life, detailing him right from birth to growing up with his sister, his mum and his dad. He's got quite interesting family histories. For the most British North Londoner man you've ever seen in your life, to think that his ancestry hails from Hungary and Canada, you wouldn't think it, would you? But there it is. So he's got some really interesting family members and dynamics. I love his sister Lucy. Like, I've never met this woman, but I love her. Like, she's so supportive of him, and I absolutely love her. This details how, you know, just his childhood and all the, some funny, strange, weird, interesting events that happened, the progression, you know, deaths of family members, him and his road to comedy, you know, his university days and how he decided comedy was for him meeting his wife and, you know, wooing her right up until he made it. It's such a fun, interesting story. It is funny. Like, it's almost like his observational comedy. There are moments in there where he's just doing a stand-up set, but he's also talking about his life, and it's written in a very funny, interesting way. I really recommend this if you want something uplifting, fun, interesting, so light-hearted, but there's also, again, some really poignant moments in the story. I'm saying the story, it's people's lives, but they feel like stories, you know, people's lives are stories, and sometimes they're very interesting ones. Get to the end of this book and it just gives you all the feel-good happies, you just want to read it again. You know, very few books do that, and this is one of them, and I absolutely love it. I kind of want to read it again, but rereading it again, and it seems like overkill. So next up, I have a whole pile of books there. So I'm just going to go through them because they're all by the same author. And that author is Miranda Hart Miranda Hart, lots of Miranda Hart. So I absolutely love her sitcom Miranda. Like, again, it's one of those things me and another best friend just quoted all the time. It's one of those series that I just go back and rewatch because it makes me happy. I love her, she's just so funny, she's so real and relatable, and I love her to bits, and I have loads of books by her now. So let's start with the first one I received, if I can dig it out of this pile. And that is It Just Me by Miranda Hart. So this is her autobiography. And the reason I put it in quoting marks is because unlike the other two books where they were like, you know, stories of their life, this is written in a very different format. Miranda Hart's taken her autobiography and turned it on its head. So she does talk about stories from her life, and she does detail her growing up, but it's written from her present self talking to her past self, which is a really interesting take on an autobiography. So she's talking to her younger self, and there are moments where her younger self is popping in and being really annoying and completely naive and oblivious about what's happening. So it's quite funny. It's very unusual. Again, Miranda Hart's one of those, you either like her or some people really hate her. I mean, I don't know what that is about. Just a polarizing figure, I guess. I just think she's funny and relatable. She's just trying to be her. Like, I love her soul and she's just so beautiful. Miranda Hart has so many great opinions and thoughts and ideas about life, especially in recent years, like on her social medias. She's basically a motivational speaker now. She's incredible, and she talks about so many things and just trying to make life fun, just trying to be herself, just trying to get over the silly hiccups in life. Is It Just Me? I remember reading it on holiday once. Me and my dad went somewhere abroad, not that I remember where for the life of me, but I remember reading this like by the pool and on the beach and actually laughing out loud. Like, this book is so funny, it's so charming, it's so silly, and there's so many great moments. Again, this one's a more funny story, very light-hearted, and again by the end you want to stand up out your chair and clap and scream and you feel uplifted, you know. I find that with anything Miranda, like her stand-up show, at the end you just feel good, you feel better about life, you feel uplifted, and this book does that. I really, really love this book, and it spurred a bunch of other books I've got from her. I also have Miranda Hart's Peggy and Me. Yes, I have two editions. I have the hardcover and the paperback. Quick story time, I've probably told it before, but here it is again. I asked for this book for Christmas for about 3 years running to all of my family members, and every year I never received this book. So I thought, okay, they're not going to get me this book. My family's forgetful, what can I say? So I just decided to buy the book. Then guess what my mum buys me 5 years later? Too late, mum, too late. At least it's the hardcover, so it's a better edition than the one I already had, so there's that. This one's got pictures in it. This one is also kind of an autobiography, but not. It details her life with her dog Peggy, so Peggy and Me. It talks about being a dog owner and, you know, the time in her life when she got the dog. So her other biography is more like her growing up as a teenager and growing into life and office jobs and stuff. And this is her in her present day comedian-esque time of writing her book and owning a dog and what it's done for her life and how she didn't expect it, but it's the best thing that's happened. It's so cute. Again, in this one, she likes talking to things in her books, because this one she's talking to Peggy. So Peggy pops in and keeps commenting, and there's like a real funny, you know, dynamic there. Again, there's some really sad and scary moments in this, but it's also mostly light-hearted and uplifting and inspiring, and you just feel good by reading it. I remember reading this during the summer this year, I think it was, or was it last year? No, I think it was this year. Or was it last year? I don't remember. And I just remember feeling really happy. Like, I read it and it was just a fluffy, happy, uplifting read. We did lose this book as well. She had, like, I don't want to tell you the story because she tells it, but that stuck with me, that story of her losing the book. Kind of an autobiography, but nevertheless a very good book. Another book I have by Miranda is The Best of Miranda. So as I said, I love her sitcom, and this is basically her scripts of the sitcom and her like annotating them and talking about the writing of them and which bits are her favourite, bits she cuts out. just really behind the scenes of the show, which is really interesting. This is another really good non-fiction kind of book that you might want to find. I find that behind the scenes of movies and TV shows, those are always really interesting books. Fiction doesn't have to be boring, and it's about your favourite things if that's what you choose. I also have another book by Miranda Hart, but this is a fiction story. Haven't read it yet. We'll get around to it one day. So the next book I'm going to talk about is also a comedian, but I can't remember if I bought this or a family member bought this. Really can't remember, but that is Dara Ó Briain, Tickling the English. In fact, this is the only comedian out of this lot that I haven't seen live. I watch all of his shows though. I love Mock the Week, I love Go 8-Bit, I love basically anything Dara Ó Briain is in. I love his stand-up. I've seen Miranda Hart, I've seen Michael McIntyre, I've seen Lee Evans, but I have not seen Dara. This is the only negative book on this list. I'm afraid I didn't like this book. I remember I loved reading the other books. I got this one, I was really excited because I love Dara Ó Briain. And I started to read this book and I literally could not tell you a single thing about this book. I don't remember anything happening at all. I remember reading this book and it was like such a struggle. Like I was just reading page after page and not feeling like I gained any information or entertainment or anything. Like I was like, Dara, what are you talking about? Like it's just talking without saying anything. And it's really sad because I love Dara Ó Briain and I really wanted to love this. I'm thinking I might have to try and go back and reread it. Maybe I wasn't in the right mindset at the time, I don't know. Maybe I'll give it one more try and try and read it, but I don't have high hopes. Like I said before, I tried to read it and just really couldn't get anywhere, and it was so tedious and dull to read that I had to put it down. So this is one of those few books that I've DNF'd in my life, but I really want to love it. It's such a shame, honestly, because Dara Ó Briain's a very intelligent man and I thought he'd write a fantastic book. I guess maybe it just didn't mesh with me. I will try and give it another go though. I don't know when that will be, but at some point I'll give it another try. But this book just wasn't for me, and I'm afraid that's how it sometimes goes. And the last book I have to share with you in my autobiography collection is Strong Woman by Karen Brady. Here's a new fact. I love The Apprentice. The TV show The Apprentice is pretty much the only reality TV show I watch. So on every autumn, it's currently on right now. We're on episode 3 or 4 now. I love The Apprentice. Every year I look forward to that show. It gets me through the week. Every Wednesday night that show is there for me. I love business. I'm a very business-minded person and I just love the show. You know, these business people fighting, and sometimes they're so stupid and it makes you feel good about yourself. But it's just an entertaining, real, fun, great show. It's serious, it's dramatic, it's always full of tension and conflict, and Karen Brady is one of the advisors on the show. So she advises Alan Sugar and watches the candidates, and I think it was my mum that got me this book. I swear all of these are presents. But she bought me this book in the hopes that I would like it because she knows I love The Apprentice. And Karen Brady, Karen Brady's Karen Brady, she's a badass. And this was such an interesting book, different from all the others I've talked about. She's a very serious person. She's on The Apprentice, she's a businesswoman. She's very serious, she's very successful. And this book details how she got there. You know, she wasn't always just at the top of her game in business. She had to really work her way up. I love the tagline, the truth about getting to the top. I remember there was some real key moments in this, especially for feminism. I don't want to say that word because people go, so much connotation for so many different people. But she talks about, you know, the difficulty of being a woman in the workplace, especially since she managed and owned the business side of her football team. You know, I can imagine the lack of respect that got her. I used to play football when I was really young. I played for Pompey, very few people know that, and I got bullied relentlessly. So at that time, there was no girls in the team. I was the only girl in the team, you know. It was a long time ago now, and still girls weren't supposed to play football. You know, I got bullied and kicked a lot by my fellow teammates who just did not want me there. You know, that's just the way it is, and I admire the people that push through adversity like that and get there anyway because they love it. You know, I didn't love football. I enjoyed it, but that completely ruined it for me. But if you love something and push through it, I respect that so deeply. Like, if it had been something else that I really loved, I would have pushed through, but for football, I was, nah. Also talks about women in the workplace and things like pregnancy leave and all that kind of stuff. And it's very interesting. It's a very heartwarming thing to read because Karen Brady worked fucking hard. I didn't know that. Like, obviously I knew like that she worked hard because you don't get where Karen Brady is without working hard. But to actually read about it, someone who's so powerful and in a position of power, so strong-willed, so sassy, so just on top of her game, and to see her work these long hours to put in at the office, to just work relentlessly, to miss so much of her life because she's working, and to see that and be like, yeah, you know what, girl, you earned it. You got there, you earned it. And I feel that kind of thing is always so heartwarming and so good to read because it motivates you in a way like, wow, you know, that's how you do it. People don't get where they are without hard work. I mean, yeah, some people get lucky, but you're not going to get lucky. You got to work for luck, you know. And I've always had that sentiment in life. I've always had that you got to work hard to get anywhere. And this is an example of someone working really, really hard and winning. So it was a great book to read. It was a long time ago. I don't remember much of the book. Maybe it's due for a reread. That's what I'm learning. When I look through books, I always just want to reread them. It's a reader problem. I've got so many new books to read. I can't just reread all the books I own. Can I? This is a reader crisis for another time. And that is all the Autobiography Collection I own. I have a few other non-fiction books, but not really many to speak of. I've got the Harry Potter, the Making of the Movies books, which I'm not going to pull out for you because one, they're huge, and two, they're underneath all the other books. They're literally at the bottom of this big pile. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to myself. I have a few other bits and pieces here and there. I've got a book on Amsterdam because me and my boyfriend went to Amsterdam, so we bought this like book about the city, like maps and interesting culinary places to go and things to do and places to visit kind of book. I've got a random Blackadder book because, again, I like comedy and stuff, and Rowan Atkinson is just a genius. I've got this random little factual book. That's all I have non-fiction wise, pretty much. I need to get more because I do love learning. I love the world and learning about the world. I love all these autobiographies, so I'd love to have more, maybe from not comedians for a change. Although I'd love more comedians. If you're a fiction reader, a die-hard fiction person, that's great. Everyone loves fiction. I mean, it's escapism. That's why we read. We love it. That's our thing. But give non-fiction a try. It is Non-Fiction November, and you might just be surprised what you find because there is some great non-fiction out there, and just because it's real doesn't mean it's any less entertaining. Thanks so much for watching my video of me rambling about autobiographies and comedians for about 20 minutes. I don't know how long this video is. And thanks, Rachel, for my inspiration and for talking about non-fiction. Thanks so much for watching. I'd really appreciate it if you went down and liked this video and let me know down below, do you have a non-fiction book? If so, what's your favourite? And if not, where do you think you would start looking? Who's like an important person that you'd really want to know more about? Or just a subject matter you'd love to learn about? And where will you look for non-fiction reads? I would absolutely love to know. So let me know down below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.